This is Matthew Cratter from Bitcoin University, and today I wanted to talk about how you can help if you're a Bitcoiner. We're going to be talking about FinCEN regulations. We're going to be talking about Swan Bitcoin, which many of you have asked for an update about. But I wanted to begin with the most important things that you can do as a Bitcoiner. You buy Bitcoin, obviously, you withdraw it from the exchange. You don't leave it on the exchange because not your keys, not your coins. You can also earn Bitcoin. This is a great way to accumulate non-KYC or more anonymous Bitcoin. You can ask to be paid in Bitcoin for providing goods and services. Next thing you do, obviously, is you hodl your Bitcoin on a hardware wallet or in multi-sig. You run a full node. You practice using different Bitcoin and Lightning Network wallets and other Bitcoin tools and really just familiarize yourself with the tools in the space. You can tell your friends and family about Bitcoin when they ask or otherwise appear receptive. For example, when they're complaining about the high price of gas or groceries, that's a good time to bring up Bitcoin, but you don't want to just bring it up at every meal and be annoying. You want to wait till people are in a receptive state. So those are the basic things that any Bitcoiner can do to help the space. Then there's the political arena. And if you're not already a person with a lot of money or in a position of power, there's not as much that you can do here. But there are a few things. You can tell your politicians that you're a one-issue voter, which is Bitcoin itself. You can tell them that you want the Bitcoin capital gains tax to be repealed so that we can freely spend our Bitcoin like any other currency without any tax penalties. You can also tell your local politician that they absolutely must support your fundamental human right to hold your own Bitcoin in self-custody, to run a full node, and to use other freedom tech tools. And to be very clear, if they don't support these rights, we're going to do it anyway, many of us. But it would be nice to have the fiat politicians on our side, as well as Bitcoiner politicians on our side. And when you talk to your politician, it's important to remind them that privacy is a fundamental human right. You and I have the fundamental right to reveal as much or as little of ourselves to the rest of the world. This is a phrase from the Cypherpunk Manifesto. And your privacy should not be violated just because there are a few bad people in the world like terrorists and child traffickers. As Edward Snowden puts it, quote, saying that you don't care about privacy because you have nothing to hide is like saying that you don't care about free speech because you have nothing to say. Privacy is a fundamental human right, and we must accept that in this day and age. This has even been recognized not just by cypherpunks and people like Edward Snowden and rebels, but even by the establishment as well. In the UN's Declaration of Human Rights, Article 12, no one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor to attacks upon his honor and reputation. Everyone has the right to the protection of the law against such interference or attacks. And this is really the context that FinCEN's recent attack on Bitcoin must be seen in. For those of you who haven't been following this or seen my previous video, FinCEN stands for Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. It's a bureau of the United States Department of the Treasury, and its purpose is to combat domestic and international money laundering, terrorist financing, and other financial crimes. This is its ostensible purpose. Unfortunately, it's become very politicized and weaponized against everyday, normal, law-abiding citizens. I'll link to this in the description notes below. FinCEN seeks to impose strict surveillance requirements onto a broadly defined class of Bitcoin mixers, and I'll also link to my previous video on this subject if you want to catch up. But I'm going to go over some of the basics here. The problem with this proposed regulation, and we're currently in the 90-day comment period, as we're going to see, so this is not regulation yet, but it has been proposed by FinCEN, and if it ends up being rolled out in the US, it's going to be widely copied globally, unfortunately. But this proposed regulation is so overreaching that it actually requires regulated companies, regulated US companies, to file a report with FinCEN if they see me doing simple Bitcoin transactions like merging my holdings of Bitcoin with my wife's holdings or my children's holdings. They actually have to file a report if they see this. I'm not going to be doing this through exchanges or regulated entities, so they probably won't see me doing it. But they will see many people doing it, and they're obligated and incentivized to report these sort of things to the government. Even if you're a completely law-abiding citizen, you're not trying to do money laundering, you're just consolidating UTXOs or doing something like this for your personal finances. If you're enjoying this video so far, I just ask you to hit the subscribe button. That really helps this channel's reach. Hit the like button, leave a comment, question, topic, suggestion for a future video, and share this video with a friend or family member. So this FinCEN proposed regulation, it's not just an attack on mixers and coinjoins, it's actually an attack on anyone who wants to send a Bitcoin transaction in a self-sovereign way. Such proposed regulation is a clear violation of basic human rights, as we've talked about, as recognized by the UN and other institutions, and it smears innocent civilians like myself and attributes money laundering intentions, even if what I'm doing by doing a Bitcoin transaction is simply trying to protect my family's financial privacy. As is often the case, this regulation is being sold as a way to prevent terrorist financing, but it's actually an attack on basic human freedoms and the fundamental human right to transact, to be able to transact in a sovereign and private manner. This regulation will not stop terrorists who actually prefer to transact using the US dollar anyway, but this regulation will hurt honest private citizens like you and me. Rather than targeting custodial mixers, this proposed regulation essentially criminalizes basic Bitcoin transactions, as I said, such as consolidating UTXOs or even withdrawing Bitcoin from an exchange. And this is to be expected in this context. We have a very high inflation and currency debasement, which is coming. The U.S. government is obviously incentivized to discourage people from using sovereign Bitcoin and instead to herd them into products like the Bitcoin spot ETFs, which can be more easily controlled or confiscated. At the end of the day, Bitcoiners may need to resort to civil disobedience in this case, similar to the civil rights movement and the fight against the drug war, the war on drugs. It's morally right to fight against unjust and dehumanizing laws and regulations. So here's what you can do today. I'm going to link to this tweet in the description notes below, this tweet from Jan over at Swan Bitcoin. And this is basically how you can send the US government a comment, what you think about this FinCEN proposed rules. And you should do it in a respectful manner and in a serious, educated manner. You shouldn't just troll them or spam them. If you're going to spend your time doing this, you should do it the right way. So I'll link to this. You can go through and there's some ideas you can use here. The source of a list of objections, how to use GPT to alter it a little bit, and then the link that you can use to submit your talking points. And there's a whole bunch of them down here, which I'll let you read. So I think that's one useful way of taking some political action. Now I'm going to talk about a way that I think is a lot less useful. This is not the time to waste your energy attacking fellow Bitcoiners. We have this tweet that's been getting a lot of reach this weekend talking about Swan Bitcoin, and a note that they sent out saying this: our banking and custodial partners have made an update that could affect your account. In light of the recent proposed ruling from FinCEN regarding Bitcoin mixing, they will no longer service clients who directly interact with Bitcoin mixing services such as Wasabi, Samurai, and other similar services. What this means for you, please be advised that depositing directly from or withdrawing directly to a mixing wallet from Swan or to Swan may result in the termination of your account with our banking and custodial partners. Now, full disclosure before I talk about Swan, I don't work for Swan. I've never been compensated by them in any way, except for one. I did speak at Pacific Bitcoin 2023, and I got to meet many of you there, which was great. It was a wonderful conference, and I did receive, as part of being a speaker there, I received a free ticket to the conference in exchange for speaking there. So I'll let you judge for yourself whether this makes me a biased observer of this particular situation. But I think this is an important thing that we need to look at the details of and not rush to judgment. Swan Bitcoin has zero control over their bank's internal policies. Swan's banking partners, though, appear to be complying with this FinCEN regulation while it is still at the proposal stage and hasn't even been officially implemented yet. And that's absolutely disgusting on the part of Swan's banking partners, but they're bankers, so what do you expect? A moral spine. If you read the Swan statement closely, you will see that it contains, at least in my opinion, a very clever workaround. They basically are telling people in a subtle way how to avoid this. If we take a look here, please be advised that depositing directly from or withdrawing directly to, and they do bold this and italicize it, this will cause problems. So what they're suggesting that you do here is you do a couple hops before you do this. You send it from one Bitcoin address to another, and you do that maybe 2, 3, 4 times, and then do the mixing if that's what you want to do. And in this case, you will not be flagged, and Swan will not have to take action at the behest of their banking partners. I personally think that Swan Bitcoin has been a huge net positive force for the Bitcoin space. They're a Bitcoin-only company. There are very few Bitcoin-only exchanges out there. Corey Clipston did a great job of calling out Do Kwon, Mashinsky, SBF, and other shitcoin scammers over the past few years. Swan also has amazing contributors like Stefan Livera, Lynn Alden, Natalie Brunel, Vijay Boyapati, etc. I'm leaving off a lot of names as well. They put on great conferences like Pacific Bitcoin. And I would ask people who are criticizing Swan on Twitter, What do you expect Swan to do at this point? Just close down their business and walk away just because their banking partners have problems with customers doing coinjoins before and after on their own? How would Swan shutting down help Bitcoin and Bitcoiners in any way? And I think if you read Corey's tweets, you can see that they're already looking to replace their banking partners. This one from November 11th. Swan isn't complying. We're letting people know one of our banking partners, and here's the emphasis, that we cannot replace in a matter of days, implies they are going to try to replace them in a matter of months or weeks, might force closure of an account that sends straight from Swan to a mixing service. And Corey ends with the obvious question, which USA on-ramps selling billions of dollars of Bitcoin don't interface with banks? There's a very long thread here from Jan that I wanted to link to. You should really go through and read this. It's absolutely fantastic and it's very thorough, but I just wanted to highlight a few pieces of it. Obviously, Jan, a co-founder at Swan, and these are from that tweet. Quote, Swan does not have any anti-mixing policies and continues to serve clients that mix their coins for privacy. Let's be clear, there's no way to process US dollars in the United States if you do not use a bank or money services business, MSB, and all such financial institutions are subject to rules and guidelines from FinCEN, FATFA, and other unelected bodies. This is the really terrible thing about it. In order to fight back against pressure from banks, we must have a large selection of banks willing to do business with Bitcoin companies. This requires Bitcoin-only companies to become big enough to be relevant negotiators at the table with banks. Swan has been doing exactly that with accelerated growth and achieving annualized revenues of 100 million. Swan is on a trajectory to achieve formidable size and thus be able to negotiate with their banking partners and even access the public markets. He's alluding here to a possible IPO, I would imagine. Jan continues with a couple other interesting proposals. Quote, we must get Bitcoiners in government, not just digital asset, blockchain, or crypto people, actual Bitcoiners who understand the technology, understand how important free speech and due process is to American society, and are willing to fight against entrenched interests that want to expand the scope of surveillance. Quote, finally, we must embrace the Bitcoin circular economy. The Bitcoin network is obviously completely unaffected by any regulations or squeezes from banks. Businesses will acquire Bitcoin from financial institutions, but many individuals can acquire Bitcoin by earning it, and smaller businesses can acquire Bitcoin by accepting it in payment, as I'm doing now with Bitcoin University. The more pressure there is on on-ramps and off-ramps, the more the incentive there is to continue to stay on the Bitcoin superhighway by interfacing purely through non-custodial, self-sovereign Bitcoin and Lightning wallets. Final note, please don't say, and I'm sure I'm going to see it in the comments, please don't say that Monero fixes this. It actually doesn't, because having privacy at the base layer leads to things like blockchain bloat and the risk of undetected inflation bugs. Simply blinding the sender, the receiver, and the amount sent, as Monero does not solve the overall privacy problem. Monero's circular economy is virtually non-existent. Monero anonymity set is the Monero anonymity set is much smaller than Bitcoin. In other words, there are many fewer Monero people than there are Bitcoiners. And also no one wants to hodl Monero because it's shown itself to be a very poor store of value. It's been declining against Bitcoin really over the past 4, 5, 6 years. And so if you're not going to hodl Monero, you end up with the same privacy problems when you try to convert your Monero to Bitcoin or to fiat like US dollars. And there's so many ways to mess up this conversion and leak privacy when you move from Monero to Bitcoin or fiat. So what's the point of even accepting Monero as a merchant if you're going to have to immediately convert it to something else like Bitcoin? You might as well ask to get paid in Bitcoin directly, use a fresh address, coinjoin it, and hodl it for the long term. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.